Good evening, everyone. And we are now starting a new book covering chapters 1 to 12. The intent is actually to give us a feel of the different types of styles of writing and different kinds of prophet, and to study the different ways they express themselves. And today we begin the book of Jeremiah. And I think it is important for us to realize that although the book of Isaiah, from a chapter viewpoint, is the longest, as you know, Isaiah has 66 chapters, and Jeremiah only have 52 chapters. But in terms of number of words and number of verses, Jeremiah is by far the longest book of the prophets. And with that, I think you could also understand one of the reasons why Jeremiah is also called a major prophet. And as you realize, the word major, minor has nothing to do with the importance of the message. The titles or categories that have been given to these major and minor are what we call the fact that they have a lot to say, and hence it's called major. And the shorter books are the minor. Now, the Hebrew Bible lays it out slightly differently. They have the former prophets and then the latter prophets. And they categorize it in terms of chronology. And so the English Bible that we have is categorized by the size of the writings by the prophets. So it is nothing to do with the importance or lack of importance of it. Now, today I would like to give you the background. And in the first few verses, frames our background. So I'll just briefly go through the first few verses, not in detail, but I will leave it for tomorrow. But more importantly, for us to understand where we hang Jeremiah. When we talked about the book of Habakkuk, book of Amos, and then the book of Micah, and then the book of Haggai, and then we ended last week with a book of Isaiah, and each of them are ministering or prophesying or doing the prophetic work at different points in the history of the Israel kingdom. So the northern and the southern. And it's no different with Jeremiah. And Jeremiah, in verses 1, 2, and 3, frames the period which he is working. Now, unlike Isaiah, you find that chapter 1 of Jeremiah really talks about the calling of Jeremiah, the setting up of the stage of young Jeremiah until the point where he grows old, right? And he has many, many years of ministry. And here, let's briefly take a look at the background of the book of Jeremiah. First of all, the word Jeremiah is Yirmiyahu. And let me just write it down. Yirmiyahu. Yirmiyahu comes from two words. Two words being the word, let me put it in blue here. The word room is to establish, and then Yahu, God, right? God's name is there. So Yirmiyahu means one who has been established by God. That's how the name works. Now, moving on is important. Let me just highlight a couple of names. He is told to be the son of Hilkiah. Actually, it's not Hilkiah, it's Hilkiyahu. So let me just put this down. oh, sorry, wrong word. Yahoo. And again, you find the word Yahoo as God's name, right? Yahoo would be, my portion is Jehovah, or Chelek, which is this word. And that would be portion. My portion is of God. But interestingly, I would show you later that he is actually the son of a priest, the Kohanim. In fact, he's probably the high priest at the time of Josiah, who are in Anatot. Anatot is a location or in a town of the land of Benjamin. And if you are familiar with the territory of land parcels that has been allotted to the tribes of Israel, then you find that Benjamin is just sitting north of Judea or Judah, so north of Jerusalem, and to whom the word of the Lord came in the days of Josiah, the son of Ammon, the king of Judah, in the 13th year of his reign. That's one. The second one is also in the days of Jehoiakim, son of Josiah, king of Judah, until the 11th year of Zedekiah, the son of Josiah, the king of Judah, until the carrying away of Jerusalem captive in the 5th month. Now, based on these three verses, will give us the framework of the time of Jeremiah. And hence, it is important, and I'll also put it into the WhatsApp group, to read 2 Kings chapter 18 all the way to 19, not 19, sorry, 21 and 22, and then 24. These would be your background. And if you have the time, that will help fill in the gaps for much of what we are going to discuss. Now, as we proceed on, I would like to keep the first three verses on the screen, but I can't do it with this screen. Let me just bring out another. Now, this is where we will begin. As usual, as a background of the books, when we come to the prophets, especially the prophets of the later period, we always begin with the kings, if you remember. And so we have Saul, and then we have David, and then we have Solomon. And with that, we had a split kingdom of Rehoboam, and then another kingdom split up here by name of Jeroboam. Now, this split is important, as always. The splits are always important for us to realize. And this split will carry on until the final king that we know, Hosea. And so we read about this in the book of Isaiah. And once we move forward from Rehoboam, we come to a few kings. Here would be, let's see, let me change the color. Here would be Hezekiah. And now I'm going to explain to you the final few. Because we have Josiah, Jehoiakim, and Zedekiah. Now, all of these are required reading when you look at 2 Kings chapter 18 all the way to 24. But let me just give you a brief outline. If we were to look at the ministry of Jeremiah, he comes after Isaiah. And how far after? Well, after Hezekiah, we have Manasseh. And right after that, a very short period of time, Amon, right? His son, Amon. Now, his son only reigned for 2 years. So Manasseh is very long, 55 years. Amon, 2 years. And then only came Josiah. And this is our interest here. Josiah is 31 years, right? Hezekiah is 29. Now, why are all these important? Is because it gives us a framework of how long our friend Jeremiah is actually at work. After Josiah comes some complexity. Josiah died and his son took over. And his son would be Jehoahaz. And he only ruled for 3 months. And Pharaoh Necho didn't like him. Put in place another king. And this would be Jehoiakim. And this is important. And he ruled for 11 years. And this would be this king here, Jehoiakim. After him, we had another terrible episode. And this terrible episode is his son. And that would be Jehoiakim. Also known as Jeconiah. Jeconiah. And our final king would be Zedekiah. And he ruled for 11 years as well. Now, this is where we are talking about, right here. And that's the span of Jeremiah. So our friend Jeremiah actually has a pretty long, how should we say, a long ministry, right? He joined the ministry in the 13th year of the reign of Josiah. If Josiah reigned for 31 years, so we would have 13 plus another 18 years here. And that would make 31. So he would reign, he would work for 18 years in the time of Josiah, 3 months here, 11 months here. And well, this was another 3 months. So another 3 months there and another 11. So you could see that our friend Jeremiah had a very long ministry. And his ministry is very key. In fact, if you had a chance to finish reading the book of Jeremiah, it will take you from the beginning of Josiah all the way to Zedekiah. And it would be very important for us to realize that at the end of the day, he would give prophecies concerning the return to Jerusalem. So within this whole period, Jeremiah would have missed the downfall of the northern kingdom because this would have been over before he started here. And he would have ended when they were carried away. So he saw the downfall of Judah. He saw the downfall of Judah. Now, also at the same time, you find that at the downfall of Judah, right around this period of Jehoiakim, okay, wrong color. Right along the period of Jehoiakim, the second siege, basically, this is what you would see. Siege number 1, number 2, and number 3. Siege number 1, Jehoiakim was giving tribute. Siege number 2, right here, was Ezekiel taken into captive. So the first one here would be Daniel, the second one would be Ezekiel, and the third one was Sayonara, and Zedekiah was taken into captivity along with everyone else, and the destruction of the temple took place right here. And so Jeremiah, I would say, carries some very serious messages, because after the downfall of the northern kingdom, the southern kingdom didn't last very long, probably around 100 plus years, and it was gone. And that was the period here from Josiah, and everyone thought that that was a revival. And then came the entire captivity and the destruction of the temple. And so that would be our backdrop. Now, the next name I wanted to point out to you is this: Hilkiah, the priest. Now, Hilkiah came in 2 Kings chapter 22. Now, 2 Kings chapter 22 is the period where Josiah, right here, would revive and restore the reading of the Torah. And Hilkiah, the high priest, found the Torah. Now, who was before Josiah? Look at that. Manasseh, bad king. Amon, bad king. And that was when the law was never read. Hezekiah, good king. Josiah, good king. And so you find that the generations change, and you cannot blame it on the father. You have to blame it on the king. And so Josiah is a good king because he listened to Hilkiah, the father of Yirmiyahu. Yirmiyahu is the son of a priest, which means that Jeremiah has access to the king, Josiah, and so to the kings thereafter as well. So that was important. Why were the major prophets like Isaiah and Jeremiah important to have access to the kings? Because God wanted them to make sure that the ship is steered properly by the king. And when the king is not good, the king would turn the ship away from God. The entire nation would be into idolatry. And hence that becomes the major focal point of Jeremiah. Now, I find Jeremiah very, very interesting because Jeremiah is written very differently from Isaiah. And when we start the studies tomorrow, you would certainly find that Jeremiah speaks in a very direct way. Whereas in Isaiah, he has a lot of poetic way of speaking. And much of what God spoke through Isaiah is also reminded by Jeremiah. But more so now, take a look at this. It is with regards to Judah. And hence, the focus of Jeremiah is the last track or the last leg of the southern kingdom's reign. And if they do not repent, they will fall into the same problem as the northern kingdom. And so prophets were sent by God also to warn. And in the warnings comes repentance, pleas, discipline, as well as warnings of future destruction. And hence you find that God is constantly appealing through the prophets, and we have read in Isaiah, we've read in all the minor prophets, we have come to the book of Jeremiah, and we will see again, God is pleading with them, which tells us that God is not willing to just let them go and set them to be destroyed. And hence you can see that although many people say that, oh, God is an angry God, you could see very clearly this period of time from here to here, and from here somewhere all the way to the end. The southern kingdom is doing exactly what the northern kingdom was doing, except that in the southern kingdom, we do find some good kings who remembered God. And so we had a golden era here. And then we have a silver era right around here. That would be Uzziah and Jotham. And then we had a bad king, Ahaz. And then we had a good king, Hezekiah. And then two bad kings, Manasseh, Ammon. And then a good king, Josiah. And then everything went downhill and kaput from there. And so what I wanted to show you with all these background is that you can actually get the themes and the rhythm of the heartbeat of the prophets. And the heartbeat of the prophets is really how God is engaging with the nations, the nation, his people, the northern kingdom of Israel, as you can see, right? Israel. The southern kingdom of Judah. And I think by this time you would have a very clear idea. God is not a flippant God. God doesn't destroy them just overnight. God has given them ample chances, constant warning. And now with the destruction of Hosea in the time of Hezekiah, and we read that very clearly in the book of Isaiah, comes the next phase which we're covering, Jeremiah chapter 1 to 12, and thereby looking at the eventual and final warnings of God. And that is incredibly exciting. Looking back, like right now we have 2020 hindsight, but also if we were to put ourselves into the shoes of Jeremiah, and then into the shoes of the then people of Judah, and if you try to put yourself into the shoes of the king, and then listen to what God says, you can hear the words of God at an incredibly high decibel, because it is the last tracks of the warnings. And so never be distracted by claims that the Old Testament God is an angry God and the New Testament God is not is a loving God. It has entirely no basis at all. The only basis we have is that when we carefully read and study the minor prophets and now the major prophets, we've gone Isaiah, now Jeremiah, is when you can see that God is not an angry God. God is constantly wanting them to come back and be good with God. When they are right with God, God is not angry. But when they are not right with God, God is angry. And the fact that when God gets angry, it's a good thing. Because Otherwise, the final destruction comes and there is nothing to be angry about, because that would be God pouring out his wrath. Just as a parent, when a parent is angry with a child and wants to discipline the child, to guide the child to come back to the right way, it is because of love. It is because of loving kindness. It's because of mercy. It's not because of sheer anger. Certainly the anger emotions are there, but the entire intent is to recover the child. Just as God, in the same way, trying to recover the northern kingdom, and then he gave it up, and then the southern kingdom, and we are now at the time of Josiah. So tomorrow when we begin, look at Josiah properly. And then we will also understand the calling of Jeremiah, which is very different from the calling of Isaiah. And in the book of Isaiah, it starts in chapter 6. In the book of Jeremiah, it starts roughly in chapter 1. And hence we get a major different feel from Isaiah now moving into Jeremiah. Now, with this as a background, I trust that you should try to go back and read again 2 Kings chapter 18 to 24. Now, just one final comment, and which we need to be very clear about. Josiah has 4 sons. This is son number 1, and this is son number 2, and this is son number 3. And son number 4 is no longer mentioned, so we don't read about him. Jehoiakim, therefore, is the son of Jehoiakim. See here? And King Nebuchadnezzar didn't like him and put in place Zedekiah, the son of Josiah. That would be the 3rd son. And so with this, you can see that towards the end of the era of the southern kingdom, the kings were interfered by external forces. What external forces? Clearly, Egypt, right here. Clearly, Babylon, right here. They were the ones who put them in place. And Zedekiah became the last king of Judah. And with this, I will leave it to you to read the background so that tomorrow when we start, we will get into the meat of Jeremiah chapter 1, and we will be able to see some of the uniqueness of Jeremiah as compared to the book of Isaiah. And with that, we come to the end of the introduction and the background of the book of Jeremiah.